So here is my full review of the GTI Tcr, the Mark 7.5, which I actually drove last weekend, and I've shared it on the channel. Check out the links in the description to see sort of like my full sort of raw drive, and then also a Q&A with the owner. But I wanted to sort of summarise how I found it, and yeah, just to explain to you what this car is like. So first of all, the biggest thing for me with this car is it definitely exceeded my expectations. I sort of went there sort of thinking, oh, you know what, I've heard good things about the TCR, it should be quite good to try. So I had, you know, a level of thinking, oh, this is going to be quite good. And that was kind of where I was at. The moment I started driving it, I was like, this has got something else, you know. I literally, honestly, I can't even put a finger of it. I don't know if it was because like the suspension was just that little bit more firmer. The front end felt so good in the corners, so good. And on the roads that I actually drove the car on, about an hour later, I actually drove a GTI performance pack, a Mark 7.5 as well, with 245 horsepower. I drove it on the exact same road, so I had sort of like a back-to-back comparison of some fantastic GTIs. The TCR stood out, put it that way. It was really good. The gearbox felt fantastic. I've driven a lot of Mark 8s, I've driven Mark 8Rs, Mark 8 Club Sports, CS45 as well. And the gearbox felt really good, which was the one thing I was kind of like, should it have a manual? But I think at 290 horsepower, it's at that limit where you're kind of like, maybe it would make sense. And the 7-speed worked really well. The looks of the car are right up my street. I've always been a huge fan of the 40th edition. I was, you know, again, a massive thank you to the subscribers who allow me to drive these kind of cars, including cars that I've driven before with first drives. And I've always liked the styling because it's a little bit more out there, a little bit more aero, bigger wing, that kind of thing. This one hit the right balance for me because it looked like any other Golf in grey to a point. You know, even the lights, you know, they look quite great from the front, but they're no different really to another GTI, like for example the performance pack that I drove before. But lower down, the front splitter, the side skirts in gloss black, and then the gloss black diffuser, and then it's got like a tiny little lip sort of on the spoiler, I thought looked really nice, because those are the parts that kind of really stood out, but you don't really notice them, if that makes sense. You know, it's not like a part where you'd be driving on the road and you'd be sort of like, oh, I'm in some sort of showy-offy kind of car. They're all sort of designed to kind of do something, and also just to look really good. They look great in gloss black. I wasn't expecting it to have an Aquaprove exhaust, and this one sounded really good, really nice, made some really nice noises, and you kind of had to work for it. It wouldn't just do it all the time, it wouldn't do all the same sort of tones. It had that kind of sort of a cool ability about it. Now, most of the TCRs do actually have Aquaprove because they came as standard, but some don't. This owner actually test drove one which didn't have one, and he said it sounded really good as well. So it's not a deal breaker, but it's certainly a cool part of the car. Now, fantastically, I'm actually driving a GTI TCR performance pack this weekend. Now, that car has 19-inch wheels and DCC and a speed delimiter. We're not going to get to 165 miles an hour, unfortunately. But that's going to be interesting to compare it to this car, which was on 18s and didn't have DCC. It'll just be interesting to see how it drives and if it's any different. Inside, I felt it felt nice and special. There were little touches which I didn't know of before, like Alcantara around sort of like the DSG gear stick, Alcantara on the door cards, sort of like the effect around the car was really nice. The kind of red touches, the red lights, red stitching, the red centre on the sort of steering wheel looked really cool. It sort of, you felt like you were in something a little bit different. I loved the 7.5 infotainment. I definitely felt it was in date, certainly more in date than say my Mark 7. Which is good. It felt like 2021. I mean, we're heading into 2022 soon, so that was nice. And obviously I'm going to say I preferred it to the Mark 8. I just felt the Mark 8 was maybe a little bit too complicated. And also for me, the biggest part of any car, particularly these like hot hatches, is, okay, the interior, the infotainment stuff's got to do a job, but it's how the car drives and how you live with it every day. It's nice to be in a 5-door as well. I'm used to my 3-door R, so you know, I can see the benefits on like the practicality front. The handling and the way it went down some of the roads that we drove on, which were really nice roads, really smooth, really twisty, really undulating, so you can really get to feel what the suspension's doing. It had a front end that really stuck. It felt like it felt really, really fun. It felt really great to sort of drive it slowly, but then when you wanted to push on, you're like, oh, okay, this has got a lot to give, this car. They've put a lot of effort into actually making this. It's not just a name. You know, TCR stands for their Touring Car Racing Series, VW's own sort of, competition that they kind of did, if that made sense. And then they bought a road car to sort of run alongside, obviously, the full-on TCR race car. That race car, funnily enough, I actually gave a small model, an official VW product, to the first subscriber who actually lent me a car at the start of this year, and that was in the Mk7.5 Golf R. I'll put that on screen as well. So it's interesting how it's kind of come back, and now I couldn't have. I mean, it's unbelievable. I still can't believe it to have actually now be in and have driven a TCR and driving a TCR at the weekend. You know, mind blown. Put it that way. I wish I could give more, to be fair, to a lot of my subscribers, but fundamentally, I think I must have spent about 6 weeks worth of sort of ad revenue just on that one sort of scale model car. So it's just the way it is, really. I really do appreciate your support. If you're looking to get a TCR, I do think it is that sort of like thing that you should aspire to get, if that makes sense. And for me as well, I don't always understand sort of like the pricing at the moment. Car market's inflated and all that, but you look at, say, like a car that you're going to see on the channel next week, the standard 245 brake horsepower GTI performance pack. His car had the same sort of miles, it was the same age, 2019, they were both 17,000 miles, both very nice cars. His was the 6-speed manual and was in 3-door. But his car today, you're probably looking like 25 grand. That's just where the market is. GTIs are very sought after. And if you think about a TCR, you can get them, the cheapest I've seen them is sort of like 30, 31, and then they sort of rise close to 35 and even to £40,000. For say £5 grand difference, I'd be pushing for the TCR personally, because it's just, it's a really, really special car. The GTI, the standard one, is great for like every day, and it's super comfortable for, I'll share my thoughts properly on that next week. But this was like, it was comfortable enough, certainly for me. Certainly, I didn't find it too uncomfortable. It's firmer than my R, put it that way. But it's not something that you're going to really get tired about or, shake you completely about, even with the awful roads we have in the UK. But yeah, if you're looking to get one, you like the 7s or 7.5s, you like the GTIs, the TCR meets expectations and kind of exceeded it quite a lot for me personally when I drove the car. And I absolutely love it, and hopefully the clips that I've shown on screen kind of share that with you, and do check out the links in the description to hear the Q&A and sort of my first raw drive, because you kind of see it as I kind of see it. That's my first time sitting in it, that's the first time me driving, so the sort of stuff that I'm saying is just how I feel at the time. This is kind of me a couple of days later into next week, and I'm like, yeah, that was a really special car. My mind hasn't really changed about that. And I kind of said, like, if I had a line of the cars that I've driven, so far on this channel, fantastic cars, Mk7 Golf R, Mk7 Club Sport, 40th edition as well has been fantastic, and sort of like the standard GTI, and even my R. Then if you stuck TCR alongside there, I would be like, if I wanted a fun drive, I don't know, I'd look for the TCR. I really do. I think it's that good. I think it's that special. And the lack of weight meant that it really did feel darty. It really felt agile. And they have done some work. I don't know the full ins and outs, but the suspension felt really, really, really good. Again, I don't think it has an E-diff. I think it has a locking front diff. If it does, that would make more sense of how good it was on the front end. It didn't even have any particularly performance-orientated tyres on it. And I believe on the performance pack you can actually option Cup 2s. So it's designed to work with real sticky rubber, which is, again, a great thing. It's certainly a car that blew my mind, and I hope this sort of short overview of how I found it helps you out. Driving the performance pack again this weekend, so again I'll have a bigger impression of it. I'm going to share like a point of view on that car, just to again give you a different kind of view. But yeah, overall my thoughts are, yeah, I'm pretty stunned by that car, to be fair. I think looks wise it suits me right to the ground. I was surprised about how much I liked the gearbox, considering I'm a bit of a save the manuals kind of fan. I really did like the 7-speed DSG on this one. It felt good. Active exhaust sounded good. It had pretty much all you want in a car. I personally like those 18-inch wheels as well. I'm am a fan. Brakes are great. They're like Club Sport S style discs, so you've got like sort of like drilled discs. The car stopped. Trust me, the car stopped. And the steering feel as well. The stuff that I guess you can't really show on camera, but I just have to tell you my feeling. It felt like it had a better steering feel to me than the Mark 8s. That's just where I am. Reminded me very much of what like my Mark 7 Golf R is like. And that's not just about changing the settings, like changing it to, if you're in sort of like eco settings, steering tends to be a lighter weight. If you're in like a race setting, it tends to be sort of like quite heavier. And then if you're in the middle, it's sort of somewhere in the middle. But it was more of the connection that you actually knew where the front wheels were going. And I think that's important in a little front hot hatch. And again, if you go back to my first review, a fantastic review, first drive in the Mark 8 Golf R, one of the early things I said within the first sort of 10 minutes, I was like, car goes where you want it to, but I can't. I've got no feel from the steering. And that's just where it is. Everything's electric rack, but it's even more electric as the years go on. I think this is a real credit to GTIs. I think they've completely surpassed all of them, all the GTIs that I've driven this year. My expectations, being a huge R fan, which I still am. Yeah, GTI TCR, if you've got one, you've got a great car. If you are thinking of getting one, get one. Just when I was speaking to the owner, we're running out of time to enjoy these kind of cars, and enjoy a car that you can do everything is brilliant. I'm fortunate enough, I've got a track day booked in a Porsche Cayman 718 GT4, a PDK, and a great, fantastic sports car. I've driven the manual earlier this year. But on the road, in the real world, and obviously your real world prices and running costs, just have just as much fun in a car like this down a back road. You really, really can. Really, really can. And I'm not just saying that for the sake of saying it. That's just how I feel. And I love the community behind it as well. And, all the enthusiasts and the people who just general car people on the channel. It means so much. I can't believe these opportunities sort of came about. And I hope my inputs help you in making your decision, if you are making a decision. It's a great car, and I absolutely loved it. Really, really blown away by the GTI TCR Mark 7.5.